Hey, what's going on today, guys? It's Trey. Welcome back to the channel. As always, welcome back to sunny, beautiful Germany. So recently I made a video about the things that Americans like and love about living here in Germany. And so what I decided to do is I decided to ask the same Americans in Germany group on Facebook what they disliked and what they hated about living here in Germany. I did the same exact thing that I did in the other video where I just chose random comments, I screenshot them. Today I'm gonna talk about a few of the things that people just do not like about Germany. Now, a couple of quick disclaimers before we dive too deep into the video. Hi, my name is Trey. I'm an American living here in Stuttgart, Germany. I do come from the United States of America, from the state of Florida specifically. So a lot of people think that the United States is one united country. Sadly, it just isn't that way. And plus, there's just a lot of differences between the states. So the mindsets are different, the politics are different. You know, just people are very different in the United States. I don't want you guys to listen to some of these dislikes and take them to heart. You know, a lot of people are just different. The United States of America is a massive country, and so it's basically like the European Union. It's just a huge place, and it's very different. So don't take anything to heart. I promise you, we will get through this. And if you are one of those individuals that is easily offended or you just can't take criticism, I would still stick around anyway because some of this stuff is pretty funny and pretty interesting. So without further ado, let's read some of these dislikes. Okay, so the first one that we're gonna do is actually my dislike, no surprise. And so mine is not being able to take a few photos around Stuttgart without angry Germans coming up to you and asking you not to photograph. Happens to me weekly. Now, yes, because I know a few Karens are gonna come in the comments section and talk about Germany's photography laws and privacy laws. I already know all of it. Before I moved here, that was the one thing that I actually researched the most. So I understand the way the laws work. My issue is obviously I do a lot of face to camera talking. There's not really too many scenarios where I'm like photographing people or anything like that. I might photograph a business, but there's never really a time when I'm like photographing or filming people specifically. So the issues that I have are if the camera's directly facing me and I'm like up against a wall, why is it that so many people feel the need to come up to me, interrupt my video, tell me to stop filming, also just not have any respect for the work that I'm doing at all whatsoever? The camera I have looks very serious looking. It's got a big microphone on top of it, so it's clear that I'm working. I'm not an amateur. If somebody's working, why would you feel inclined to disrupt that individual while they're working as they're filming themselves? I can get it if I was in some Oma or Opa space, like filming them directly or filming them while they were eating. I could understand that, but there's just been so many instances. For example, like I was at a Currywurst restaurant here in Stuttgart filming myself in the back corner of a restaurant, and this guy comes up to me and starts literally screaming in my face, telling me, "I don't want my kids on film. I don't want to be on your camera. Remove me immediately." And like, I could tell the other Germans around were really upset at this guy for doing that, right? Because one, I had barely even been in the restaurant for a few minutes, but also you're embarrassing your family, you're making yourself look like the dick, and at the end of the day, it's really not a big deal. I think at this point, people in Stuttgart know who I am, and so I get a lot of waves, I get a lot of highs and hellos, and when I walk into businesses, they greet me, and before I even order food, for example, or before I even start to shop around, I always ask like, "Hey, you know, I'm here to highlight your restaurant. Do you guys mind if I just get a little bit of footage of the restaurant? And then if you don't mind, can I sit like in a back corner somewhere? Do you mind if I go sit in the back corner and just film myself eating?" And usually they're like, "Yeah, Trey, cool, do whatever you want to do. Like, just don't film anybody, don't get in anybody's faces." And like everybody is clear on it in terms of me in the restaurant and usually some of the customers, but there's always just, you know, a few people that really just grind my gears, and it's definitely a German thing to do. And yes, the same thing happens in the United States as well, but it definitely happens here in Germany big time. In Stuttgart specifically, since it's one of the more conservative areas, and since people here take life super seriously, like, no offense to anybody here in Stuttgart, everybody just walks around with their butthole like glued shut, like glued tight. Everybody is just, you know, pretty angry, sadly, for some reason. Or I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of the population here is just angry and they're looking for conflict. And that's not what I'm about. It's very difficult to film and do this YouTube thing here in Stuttgart specifically. When I go to Munich, on the other hand, or when I go to Frankfurt, like people are just so nice and like they hop in front of the camera, they put their arms around me and like, you know, they buy me a drink and stuff like that. It's just completely and totally different. So I think it'd be different if I lived in Munich or if I lived in Berlin or Hamburg or Köln or Frankfurt. I think it would be a little bit easier to do YouTube, but it's damn near impossible to do it here in Stuttgart, especially if you're going to events and even just standing on the street filming yourself. Somebody will always find a way to just interrupt what you're doing and try to impose the law on you, even though you're filming yourself specifically. Okay, I know that was a little bit of a rant. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Traffic cameras. I got a ticket for going 6 kilometers over in an 80, going downhill. That isn't even 4 miles per hour. Rant over. Thanks. Well, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I was actually gonna make a video about this because a lot of people have just been asking me like if I've gotten speeding tickets. So unfortunately, last week I did get a speeding ticket. Well, I haven't gotten the ticket yet, but I was driving to work and I just saw a flash. And so I was confused because obviously I take this commute to work every day, so I know the speed limit, right? And it's also right as you're about to go around this sharp turn here in Stuttgart. So everybody knows you have to slow down, like you naturally have to slow down to make that curve. And so the speed limit drops from 80 to 60. So they actually put the speed camera right in front of the 60 kilometer per hour sign. So obviously going from 80 to 60 is not gonna happen. So I noticed that the light was just going off. It looked like paparazzi basically. And so I saw about like 5 or 6 people get flashed, you know? And so I think what Stuttgart does in that instance is I think they go back and review the footage, they view the camera placement, and I just don't think that they send out the tickets because I've been flashed before and I didn't get a ticket or I didn't get anything in the mail. And also just the placement was so lousy there for a speed camera. And you know, the German speed cameras are very unforgiving too. So that's another thing to consider. I am just amazed at how well Germany does road construction. They only choose the roads I am on when I am on them. The rest of you are welcome. Now, that's pretty funny. And obviously this guy's being a little bit sarcastic, but he's true. There is so much construction that takes place here in Germany. And I actually just got done watching Haley Alexis's most recent video talking about her dislikes here in Germany. And that's a big one, man. Construction happens here in Germany on a massive scale nationwide. Now, on the positive side, I think that the Germans can see their tax dollars being put to work, especially when work is being done on public roads, the Autobahn, you know, highways, thoroughfares, etc. I think it's a pretty reassuring sight to see because in the United States, for example, a lot of the roads are just downright awful. And, you know, we just moved from Hawaii, which has the worst roads I've ever seen on the planet, like worse than a third world country. Potholes galore, you know, the roads are just falling apart. And it's just really sad to see tax dollars not being put to good use in the United States. But here in Germany, I would say for the most part, the tax dollars are being put to pretty great use. Well, at least on the surface they are. So, you know, Golden and I, we just got back from the Czech Republic, and obviously to get to the Czech Republic, you have to drive from Baden-Württemberg through Bavaria, and literally the entire time we drove from Stuttgart to the Czech-German border, it just seemed like we were in one lane the entire time. And you know, you're on the Autobahn, and there's just so much construction, and it's just really crazy. And we happened to go during a weekend, and no construction was happening. They just obviously leave the vehicles and stuff out there, so the cones are still set up. And you know, the speed limit is still dropped down to the lower limit to protect the workers. And there's just construction everywhere. And sometimes it can become pretty frustrating, especially since we're coming from the United States where we hear so much about the Autobahn and the no speed limit and just being able to get to your destination in a safe, timely manner. And on the other hand, you get here and there's just, you're stuck in the worst traffic imaginable because of the construction. Okay, this one is a long one. I am not surprised We have an 11-year-old son that uses a power chair, and we've pretty much stopped eating out since moving here 3 years ago, with the exception of takeout or the occasional McDonald's on road trips. Germany is the least handicap-friendly country we've been to the point it's like a breath of fresh air every time we take a trip somewhere else. People stare at our son like something is wrong with us for having him out and about, and people stand in his way oblivious to him when he is trying to go in crowded places with his chair. Even in crowded Rome, we did not experience this. But here in Germany, we are always pleasantly surprised when a business or person does something to accommodate our son. It does happen sometimes, and some people here are extremely nice and try to be understanding, but they are the exception. So this one's a really sad one, actually. And I totally empathize with this individual because I've seen it firsthand. And, I even see it with my own son who's not in a power chair or a wheelchair or special needs. But I see the way that people just uncontrollably and uncomfortably stare at things that are different, right? I'd probably say that is the toughest speed bump to get over in Germany, is the proverbial German stare. And I know we laugh and giggle about it, but it's really uncomfortable, right? And this poor family has experienced it to a T. They probably experienced the worst of it. And I've seen Germans firsthand, just straight up barrel over people in wheelchairs or people in crutches, or, not holding doors for, amputees, and just slamming doors in people's faces that, have health issues and whatnot. I've seen it firsthand. And so I don't know why that is. Maybe somebody can explain. And I know this part might upset people, but I've seen it happen multiple times. So this has to be something that is commonplace here in Germany. And I need an explanation because I hate it, man. I don't like the German stare. It's at the point where when I run with my son and we're in the stroller, somebody will block the sidewalk. They won't even let me run by with my son in the stroller, right, as I'm running. And so while I think Germany loves kids, I think that Germans' outlook on things that are different is extremely closed-minded and negative, and it can make experiences and life extremely challenging for a lot of people. And so I can literally do an entire video on this, and I'm not going to, but this comment really shook me up because I really feel bad. I really feel bad for the son. I feel bad for the family. And like I said, I've seen it happen. So I know this lady isn't making this up. And I think that people need to do better. And I know whenever I see somebody that does need wheelchair accessibility and they can't get there, I'll straight up ask, hey, I know these are stairs, but do you need help? I'll help carry you up. I can help in any way. And it's interesting because a lot of people are like, Americans are closed-minded. But I would say in America, at least, people like to help other people, especially when it comes to people that need the extra assistance. And so it's not really a thing here in Germany. And so at least I haven't experienced it. And I'm talking about any city that we've been to. So little sad part there in the video, but yeah, let's move on. Pizza here sucks. All right. I mean, that one's a little strange. I think a lot of these people, a lot of people that you're going to be hearing responses from, most of them live on an American military installation. And so hopefully this lady specifically isn't only talking about the pizza shop on base, right? Or whatever base she's on. Hopefully she's not focusing on that. And hopefully she's actually been out on the German economy and had pizza. But the pizza here doesn't suck. So this is just one of those comments where it's like, come on, man. You just got to venture out. And I think to make a blanket statement like that is, with no explanation at all whatsoever, is just pretty embarrassing, actually. The pizza here is pretty damn good. And I think another great thing about living here in Germany is it's an immigrant country, essentially. There's so many great pizza joints here, especially in the Stuttgart area. My favorite pizza spot is actually in Munich, and I'm sure there's probably even better pizza places out there. So we're gonna just ignore this lady and pretend like we never even saw that comment. Waiting 1.5 hours after your appointment to be escorted to patient room to see the doctor, then waiting, seeing the doctor, waiting again for nurse, waiting again for billing, then waiting again for scheduling. What should have took 1 hour at most took 3. I had back surgery in January, And so some of you guys probably saw the videos that I talked about my experience and whatnot. This lady is right. You know, when I went to my pre-op appointment, before I even had my surgery, here in Germany, you go through something called pre-op, and obviously there's a German term for it. I don't know it, I'm sorry, don't vilify me. So anyway, I went to pre-op, and yeah, it took, man, the entire process took maybe like four hours or so. And like, you know, so I get to the hospital, I tell them like, hey, I'm here for my pre-op appointment. And they tell you, okay, you gotta go here. And then I ended up going to like 6 different rooms. So while it is efficient for the hospital systems, I would say, for the client or for the patient, man, it could be pretty taxing. Americans just aren't used to, you know, having to wait that long at medical facilities unless you're going into an emergency room. But if you're an individual that is insured and you have an appointment already set up, you expect to be in and out of there, you know, maybe like an hour tops. And yeah, here in Germany, it's not like that. So maybe some people could chime in the comment section to explain why that is, but I really don't understand on the surface of why I need to go to like 8 different rooms, speak to 8 different people, and ultimately I'm just here for like to get a tooth pulled or something like that. So it's just, I don't know, maybe Germans are used to it, but coming from the States, yeah, it's not something that we're really used to there. Oh my gosh, this one is pretty funny. Germany is the HOA of countries. I miss the lawlessness of Napoli. All right, so HOA, if you guys don't know, I'm sure a lot of the Americans or Canadians watching this probably know what an HOA is. An HOA is a homeowners association. So in the United States of America, there's different communities and stuff. There's neighborhoods, there's subdivisions, and most of those places have something called an HOA or a homeowners association. And what their main responsibility is to maintain order basically in your neighborhood, right? So for example, if I live in like a deed restricted HOA community, I couldn't just go out and paint my house purple or green or orange or red or something that's gonna really stick out, because these HOAs and these specific communities actually create guidelines and rules for the communities to follow. And the really crazy thing about that, because Germans are probably like, Trey, what the hell is this? You actually have to pay dues to HOAs as well. So you're basically paying to be restricted. And so for a lot of Americans, especially in my generation, they just don't like HOAs because at the end of the day, they're pretty pointless. And I think for a lot of people, when you live in a subdivision, you want to be able to have the freedom to do what you do. You know, I don't really agree with like going out and painting your house like neon green or something like that. But you know, if you want to install something that you like, I don't see an issue with that. And so HOAs kind of prevent that. So now that we know what HOAs are, let's go ahead and talk about why Germany is actually the HOA of countries. Rules, 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 rules. Germans follow the rules to a T. And this has just been historically speaking, right? Germans are pretty obedient. And also rules matter here in Germany. You know, you always want to do the right thing. There's just a national belief in ensuring that things are done the right way, the German way. And I think the longer you live here, you'll start to see that the German way actually works, obviously. So, and that's why so many people applaud Germany for the things that they do. But for a lot of people, and especially for a lot of Americans, you know, they don't like a lot of restrictions, right? They don't like a lot of government interference. I know Republicans specifically in the United States of America really don't like any government interference or surveillance or anything like that at all whatsoever. So Germany, on the other hand, man, it's the complete opposite of what the Republican mindset is in the United States. There is government interference, there is surveillance, you know, you do have to pay a lot of taxes. It's different. But I think the longer you live here, you'll actually see the fact that it does actually benefit the people, and the people actually like the way the system is set up. So if the Germans aren't gonna complain about it, I'm certainly not gonna complain about it. And even if I wanted to complain about it, I could just simply go back to the United States. But I genuinely like it here. But yes, this lady is right. Germany certainly is the HOA of countries. Semi-trucks going 83 being passed by semi-trucks going 84 in unlimited sections of the Autobahn. The tough thing about the Autobahn is there are a lot of sections of it that are only 2 lanes wide, sadly. So this is something like when we drove out to the Czech Republic recently, my son and I dealt with this the entire time on top of all the construction and road work being done. But what happens is obviously the trucks end up being behind each other. One truck's going slower than the other. So the other truck goes to go around it. And sometimes that might, add an extra minute or so to your trip for that other semi to get around the other. So I think the biggest thing is a lot of Americans, and sure, this is a blanket statement that I'm sure people will disagree with, but a lot of Americans are just pretty impatient when it comes to driving. And me being a South Florida native specifically, where there is complete lawlessness when it comes to driving and no patience at all whatsoever on the roadways, it's pretty difficult to, I guess, be stuck behind a semi an extra minute, or if it adds an extra minute to your road trip. I would imagine that gets pretty annoying at times. But at the end of the day, so what? Not really a big issue. I do actually applaud the drivers here in Germany, because especially here in the South where we live, there's a lot of hills and stuff like that. And you never hear anything about like trucks wiping out or anything like that, or truck related accidents or incidents or anything like that. So the drivers here in Germany are super focused, right? I don't know if there's some law here in the European Union where, there's a certain amount of time that you can drive throughout the day, and you can't be in this lane or you can't be in that lane. But I would say that the drivers do an excellent job here. So this isn't really a complaint that I'm gonna take to heart too much. It's really annoying when German holidays coincide with American ones. The airport security line was the absolute worst this morning. Now, this was 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to think what holiday she was talking about. I can't think of the holiday off the top of my head, but this one I'm not gonna really take too serious. I'm certainly not gonna take it to heart, because obviously, like, as Americans, military, contractors, DOD, it doesn't matter. Like, we're here on foreign soil, so we should just be grateful and thankful to be here, honestly. So I'm not really gonna complain too much about this, but sure, it does get pretty annoying. I know, especially during Christmas, the airports get completely jam-packed here. I know Frankfurt, Munich, and Stuttgart are the worst in the South. Obviously, those are the 3 largest cities in the South. But they are just awful, because a lot of the military installations are located in the South specifically, and the most concentrated area of Americans in Germany is actually gonna be around Frankfurt. So Ramstein, Wiesbaden, Landstuhl, all of those military installations, there are thousands of Americans there, right? And so, everybody's trying to get home for the holidays. Everybody's trying to get back to the States, and it becomes pretty challenging during specific holidays. And so, obviously Germans aren't gonna give up their holidays, and obviously Americans aren't gonna give up their holidays. So at the end of the day, we're all just gonna have to suck it up, because as long as the United States has a presence here in Germany, this is how life is gonna be. This is how travel is gonna be. So deal with it. German traffic lights. You know what I'm saying. All right, I actually feel this one, because so we have two vehicles. We have a Volvo XC90, which is an SUV, so it sits a little bit higher up, which is nice. But then we also have a BMW 3 Series wagon. That car is pretty low, pretty dang low to the ground. And German traffic lights, I don't know why, but their height and positioning is extremely awkward, right? It's like off to the right. It's a little bit higher off the ground. And I don't know why. It doesn't matter what vehicle you're in. You almost have to have this type of head positioning to see the light. And it's annoying. I'm sure some of you guys are gonna be like, Trey, just deal with it. But it's annoying, man. It's annoying. And then also here in Germany, something that's different than the United States is the light goes from red to yellow to green. In the United States, it goes straight from red to green. Now, France, which is only like an hour from where we live, their lights are like the United States, where it just goes straight from red to green. And so a lot of people are used to that. I like that. It is what it is. Not the biggest deal in the world, but when I had my back surgery, it was pretty painful to have to, do this the entire time. Ugly naked guy watering his plants last night on his balcony. It was a full moon last night, but only for me, apparently. This one, so I actually did, I think like 2 videos ago, I did an entire video about nudity here in Germany, because it's very different than it is in the United States. People just like to be nude. And if you're in your house What, so you think you're gonna listen to somebody telling you to put clothes on? You think you're gonna listen to your neighbor telling you to put clothes on? No, you're gonna be free. You're gonna, you're gonna let it all hang out. It's your house. You do whatever you want. And so there have been times where I'll actually be naked in my home and I'll look over and I'll see my neighbor like, looking over at our place, right? It is what it is. It's just the way Germany is. I don't think it's a big deal. I think a lot of it goes back to like America's sense of prudeness, and America is just still in the dark ages when it comes to sex, intimacy, sexuality, pornography, nudity. They're just living in the dark ages, sadly. And it does make life pretty difficult because some people just want to be free, man. And as American citizens, we are free. And as we've learned, we're not the freest country on earth. And look at any statistics and that'll prove that. But when it comes to nudity and stuff like that, just let people live. As long as they're not like out, like, slapping their junk in people's faces or like, doing crazy stuff, it's really not a big deal. And if they're in their house, I'm not gonna sweat somebody being naked or nude in their own house. Big deal. This one is hilarious. I hate it when the sun comes out when I'm not expecting it. I feel this one, obviously not this time of year, but there was a time, right, where it was cold, and I'm talking like April, May. It was cold. It just started to get hot, but it was pretty chilly at certain points. And in Germany, obviously, it's a pretty dark and gray place for the most part, especially in the winter months and some of fall. It could be extremely, dreary. And so a lot of people wear a coat and they anticipate wearing that coat for most of the day. Germany, on the other hand, you're gonna get it all, right? You're gonna get rain, you're gonna get snow, you're gonna get sleet, you're gonna get hail, you might get some lightning, you might get some tornadoes, you might get a heat wave, you might get it all in the same day. And so what this guy means is he hates when he's got a coat on, or he hates when he's just expecting it to be cool, and out of nowhere the sun comes out and it just absolutely makes everything so hot out and there's no cloud cover. For example, today there's not a cloud in the sky and it is hot today. So I totally get what this guy means. The sun in Germany does whatever it wants. It is pretty shy a lot, especially up in the north, but down here in the south, it does whatever it wants. And the month of April here in Germany, especially here in Baden-Württemberg, is the craziest weather I have ever seen. It literally does whatever it wants. We don't have Chick-fil-A. I mean, this one's obvious, right? Chick-fil-A is not going to move overseas. They actually just recently moved to Hawaii. I don't even think Chick-fil-A is in Alaska. So there are some states in the US where Chick-fil-A just doesn't exist. So they certainly aren't going to come to Germany. So this comment was a little strange, but Chick-fil-A ain't coming to Germany. We don't even need to have a dialogue around that. We do have Chipotle, which a lot of Americans love, but yeah, Chick-fil-A, not gonna happen. Bikers on the road with perfectly fine bike paths left and right of that road. Angry face. This one actually got a lot of likes too. So I do feel this one. I do understand Germany has its laws. Bikers can, bike in the road if they want. And I actually think, don't quote me, I actually think you have to bike on the road in Germany. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I'd never see any bikes on the sidewalk. So I'm assuming there's a law where you have to be actually on your bike in the road. And so I could see why, as an American, this would be annoying, because in the United States, there are designated bike paths. Here in Germany, there are some bike paths, but for the most part, a lot of people just ride their bikes on the road. The thing that makes me frustrated is the people that are just driving their bike just directly in the center lane. And so it slows things down. I find a lot of older people doing this, but there's just no shame at all. And I think it does create a lot of congestion, and it's also pretty dangerous as well. But maybe somebody can explain to me why that is. Why not just ride your bike off to the side? I just noticed so many people just riding it right down the middle. Another thing I wanted to mention is this person's right. The bike paths are amazing. There's off-road bike paths. There's sidewalks that are well manicured. There are some brick roads and stuff like that, but it makes no sense why. I know for me, from a safety perspective, I wouldn't want to ride my bike in the street, but that's just me. So I would probably be the lawbreaker on the sidewalk with my bike. We have a bike, but I never ride it because I'm just scared to. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why people don't just keep their bikes on the sidewalk. If there's a law against riding your bike on the sidewalk, call me an idiot, but yeah, coming from the United States, I don't really get that at all. Haha, I love these types of responses. Me, hallo, sprechen Sie English? Them, no. Transaction goes rough but is completed. Me, danke. Them, you're welcome. You have a wonderful day. Smile. Me, that sounded perfect to me. Laugh my ass off. I know you know English now. Or when you ask if they speak English and they say only little bit, but their English is amazing. I think a lot of this is thanks to the German system, right? We live in such a multicultural country. Germany is a very, very multicultural place that just so happens to have Americans that live here. And so obviously Great Britain has had influence all over the world, and post World War II and post the ignorance running this country, I can't use the actual word, but post that time, there was just a lot of influence on learning other languages. So French, I know some Germans speak Dutch, English. I've even heard some Germans speaking Spanish fluently as well. And so I think it is really impressive to see the amount of Germans that actually do speak English. And we've got to remember, like when it comes to pop culture, a lot of the top artists and musicians in the world are either from the United States, Canada, Great Britain, Ireland, English-speaking countries. And so for the most part, English is the language of business, but it's also just the language of the arts as well. Let's be frank. I know for a lot of people that's going to be a tough thing to hear because, you know, the arts obviously didn't originate in English-speaking countries, but for the most part, a lot of art and a lot of expression is told via the English language. And so I think that's one of the biggest reasons why English is widely spoken here in Germany. I don't think there's any crazy science or anything like that behind it. But yeah, I do think it's pretty funny when Germans just, yeah, they say they don't speak good English, but then when they speak the English, it's literally flawless. It's amazing. ETSing, which means basically leaving Germany to head back to the United States. ETSing, and I got a lot, but I'll say I'm glad I'm leaving here for the land of air conditioning. Whew, man, that is the one that I feel the most out of all that I've read so far. Only because it gets hard, man. And you can ask anybody that knows me, I don't really care about air conditioning that much because I'm an individual that just doesn't sweat that much. So it doesn't really make me too uncomfortable. But ever since moving here to Germany, man, it's just hard. It's hard not having AC. I don't know if it's because the buildings are poorly insulated or whatnot. And we live in an actually relatively new space. And it still just gets so hot in there. Even in the colder months, we don't even put the heat on because it's just warm. And so I do miss my AC. When we lived in Hawaii, in fact, we didn't even have AC there, but you've got the trade wind. So you've at least got some natural form of AC and insulation there. But here in Germany, it sucks not having AC. And I'm sure we could easily go out and have AC done, but then it's like you gotta go through this permit and that permit, and it's too many hoops to jump through to the point where we're just like, all right, we're gonna get as many fans as we can, and we're gonna cool down this place to the best of our abilities. We've got like 5 fans in our house, and it is still blazing hot in there. So I miss my AC so much. And in fact, when we go to other countries and they have AC, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Just AC is not really a big thing here in Germany. This one actually piggybacks off the last one. Hot AF temps and no AC. I am so over German summer heat already, and it's only just begun. I don't really even need to say anything. I think a lot of people need to realize before they decide to move here to Germany, or if they're moving from another country in Europe, man, it gets hot here. I don't know where this idea, I think this is an American thing, but a lot of people think that Germany is some like frozen tundra because they just see all the pictures of snow and stuff like that. And it's not like that, man. Germany has all of the seasons here, and the summer is really intense. And as global warming is continuing to rear its ugly head and face, it just is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So yeah, don't come here thinking that it's gonna be cool year round. It's certainly not going to be the case anywhere you live. I don't care if you live in the north, the south, it's gonna be hot everywhere. Okay, so we So I got a lot, like well over 100 responses, and I only cherry picked a few. We are at the final one, so I'm gonna go ahead and read that now. How the law states that we can't sit with our car idling, but yet they allow people to smoke at the entrance of any establishment where all that smoke comes in. So I guess secondhand smoke that could cause cancer and a whole list of other bad things is way less than car idling. I'm gonna say, while I agree with this guy to an extent, I do think it's a little bit of a stretch to compare the two, because obviously, like, your car idling, like, there's emissions running, and Germany and the European Union have extremely strict emissions laws, and it's not the same as secondhand smoke because they're two different things. Not saying that they're both not important, but they're just two completely different things. So I think the comparison's a little odd, but I do get what the person's saying. I am an individual that does not smoke. I don't like smoking. I think I've smoked a cigarette once in my life, and that was one puff, and I was like, I will never do this again for as long as I live. I don't even like cigars. And so, yeah, I'm not into it. I'm not into the whole smoking thing. I don't believe in vilifying people that do smoke. I do think that designated smoking areas should be taken seriously. I don't think that Germany takes them as serious as they should. Germany is an incredible country in a number of ways, but for some reason, when it comes to the smoking, it's just one thing that they're not willing to bend on. And I mean, I've done a video on this just in my neighborhood alone. I've got like 50 different cigarette vending machines, and they're always being changed constantly. So people are out here smoking all the time. And so I'll never understand why smoking needs to be in a restaurant or even close to a restaurant. Like, smoking sections should be as far away from establishments as possible. You know, and there's so much scientific research out there to show the effects of secondhand smoke, and also just direct inhalation of cigarette smoke. And so, you know, if people want to do their own thing and smoke cigarettes and, you know, do whatever they want with their body, that's on them. But when it starts to inconvenience others, that's when I have the issues. And just, I need and hope that Germany can come around to the fact that the whole cigarette argument, it's time to fold on that. It's really time to move forward and just ban it altogether in all establishments. In the United States, you cannot smoke in any restaurant in the United States. And so, yeah, something needs to change nationwide, because it gets pretty annoying sometimes when you're at a beer garden and you're like looking at your son and he's like got smoke in his face, or it's like you're trying to eat a nice meal and you're just inhaling smoke constantly. It's really, really annoying. All right, guys, that is gonna do it for us. We have made it to the end of the video. I really didn't even feel like we were gonna make it here. There was a lot of complaints, a lot more than I thought there would be. But I'm sure there's some people out there that are probably like, you know what, Trey, unsubscribe, 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 unsubscribe. Take a deep breath, go walk outside, touch some grass. Well, maybe you don't wanna walk outside, it's pretty hot out there. But just take a deep breath. We made it, we got through. And you guys got a chance to hear firsthand what Americans think about Germany. I still know 110% that this is one of the best countries on earth to live in. Yeah, I don't have any doubts of Germany continuing to be a great country. You know, no country's perfect, obviously. But I think the fact that Americans are continuously moving here goes to show that people want to be here for very, very obvious reasons. And so if you guys did appreciate this video, please give it a huge thumbs up, as it does help this channel and your humble narrator in a number of ways. Thank you guys for all the continued love and support. And if you guys have any ideas for future videos that I could make, please let me know down in the comment section below. I am gonna leave my Instagram in the description as well. You can also feel free to reach out to me there. I love this studio. I love this space. I love Germany. I'm not loving this heat though, which I gotta go back out in right now. I still gotta go for a run today. I gotta go for a run. But I love you guys, and I will see you on the next video. As always, thank you. Mahalo for watching.